And welcome to PM Express. The Attorney General has been in the news lately in the last few days, heaped under a pile of controversy. Today, he came out swinging. And he gave us an assessment of the oral and where he is. The accusation before today was that his prosecutions, his investigations are too slow and he's yet to secure conviction. And that some even suggested that he's cutting deals and letting people off the hook. Well, today he's been responding to that. And so let's look into it tonight with my panelist who is joining me for a conversation. The oral scorecard. There have been fresh revelations today, but you've also seen a push for expedited conviction. So let's do the countdown. It's been 9 months, 2 weeks, and 1 day since this new government took power in January. And remember that the central plank of their campaign promise was the oral, the Operation Recover or Loot, to deal with corruption. If you look at it, it was number 4 on the list of priorities they told us they'll focus on. But speak to many people on the streets. The oral was the magnet that attracted a lot of people to the NDC. So it is expected, is it not, that after they've won power, there'll be a lot of expectations around oral, and the Attorney General will be in the eye of a storm. He is. And tonight he's been trying to deal with it by being transparent at the accountability series. So a few things that he told us today. One is that the oral report itself lacked evidence. If it did lack evidence, what you do is to commission investigations into it. And so he says what he's done was to ask the state investigative agencies to begin the investigations and to gather the evidence that will secure convictions. And that is why he says it appears it's delayed, but he doesn't want to be an incompetent Attorney General, because he wasn't one when he was in private practice, and he doesn't want to be one now. He wants to back his cases with strong evidence. That's the first thing he told us. Secondly, that investigations are still ongoing, not done yet, and that the aim is to build watertight cases and prosecutions. But also we learned about preventing unnecessary adjournments. He doesn't want that, and that is why he's taking time to get this done and done right. So a few things we learned today. Well, just a bit of background. 230 cases were submitted to him as part of the oral committee's work. And remember, the thing is called Operation Recover or Loot. As far as that committee was concerned, there was a total of $21.19 billion out there that is recoverable. Well, it turns out not exactly the case, because the Deputy Attorney General has been granted interviews this week. And one of the things he said was the figure that they were giving is on the high side. To put it another way, it may have been exaggerated. And now that you begin to subject this to scrutiny and to the evidential test, it hasn't passed muster. And so he's saying, well, the expectations coming into this government was 21 billion. They don't believe they can recover all this. The key question is, having looked at it, what is a reasonable amount comparing to what was put in the oral report? So this really is one of the areas that, again, had led to a few questions being asked of the Attorney General. But the Attorney General is trying to be factual. He's trying to be honest with us, candid, transparent, and putting out what the evidence is saying. If the evidence says you cannot recover 21.19 billion, although the oral committee had told you it is out there to recover, well, you have to tell the citizens, which the Deputy Attorney General told us this week. His boss has been saying so too. So a few cases we know about and where they are. We know that there are 2 cases currently on trial. And these cases, the National Service Authority case is one of them. You have 10 others that are currently being investigated, and you have 5 that 10 investigations concluded, and you expect that the next stage here will be to file a case in court, but then you have 5 cases that are under investigations. There are a few of them that, to be more precise, that have been concluded. The DRIP, the SML case, the Sputnik V vaccines, and the free Wi-Fi one concluded. Then you have the ongoing investigations being the All Africa Games, which again the Attorney General says you're looking into. You have the mathematics set one, and then you have the National Cathedral, which is a big one. He told us today that he's asked for a forensic audit into the National Cathedral case because they've done a forensic audit into the National Service Authority case, and they found that the case that we thought was just about 50 million, it's far more than that. It's like in the billions. We'll look at that tonight with my guest. What does that mean? But then he dropped a bombshell, what he himself calls a rumble in the jungle. And this is the case of the Buffer Stock Company, headed at the time by this man here, Hanan Abdul Wahab. And he says he's found another scheme very similar to what he told us regarding the National Service Authority. A scheme that had led to the siphoning off embezzlement of 50.8 million cedis. And he says this gentleman here, the former CEO, and these are all allegations because nothing has been proven just yet. What we know so far is that he's put together charges, he's going to file it in court. It will be subject to a lot of tests in court, but these are allegations. From the amount that has been put out by the Attorney General, he spent $1.6 million, for example, on a 5-bedroom house. And then he also spent $600,000 on a 3-bedroom house, himself and the wife. They bought lands too, $750,000. They bought a 17-bedroom boutique hotel. And they signed an agreement with a very well-known, credible brand here in Accra that runs a boutique hotel to run it for them. In Tamale, a 4-bedroom house is another one that they spent money on, 4.1 million cedis, and a 370,000 government land that was bought, was flipped and sold high, at a high price, way above what they bought it for 307,000 cedis there. So he now has been charged with a few offenses. Stealing, there's also conspiracy to steal. There is causing financial loss to the state. You expected that in there, and using public office for profit, and then obtaining public property by false pretense and money laundering. These are serious allegations. And one of the things that struck me was that he also spent 1.5 million cedis to buy a watch. The Attorney General also claims that the wife, they found at least 61 luxury handbags with her. And they put that together and make the extrapolations. If you're earning 5,000 cedis, which is what the husband pays her as a housewife, how do you come by 61 luxury handbags? And they also told us a story about him and what he earns. When he was appointed, initially he was earning 14,000 cedis. By the time he was leaving office, he was earning 28,000 cedis. How can somebody earning 28,000 cedis afford all the things I've just told you? The Attorney General has been recounting today. He has issued a statement today saying these are false. He will have his day in court. But as you already have heard, there's some who have raised questions about the entire architecture within which the Attorney General has to play, which may be the reason why it's dragging as far as some of the prosecutions are concerned. Daniel Demolovo, former Auditor General, was part of the Operation Recover All Loot Committee, and he had said this: I'm dissatisfied with the legal system and the framework of fighting corruption. He's on my show tonight. We'll get him to weigh in on what he said today from the Attorney General. Stay with me. And thanks for staying with us here on PM Express. It's always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough, Academic Times, and Pepsodent Cavity Fighter. If you're looking for a tank that can store water but is durable and long-lasting, you're looking for Syntex Tanks. The tank with the tortoise on it is simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it isn't the right tank. Syntex Tanks is the champion of water tanks. It is one that would ensure that your water is stored safely, rain or shine. Air strong, air tough. Also tonight, the Academic Times Journal is launching soon with 3 distinctive graphic publications and a journal to showcase and empower students across all educational levels. So look out for it when it is launched. And just before you sleep, make sure you use the Pepsodent Cavity Fighter. Pepsodent, every smile matters. My guest joining me tonight for a conversation on a day when Attorney General briefed the whole nation on where he is currently with the investigations into the oral allegations and the report that was submitted to him. But other investigations also. Nana Ejay Bafewa is MP for Mensha South. He's a lawyer, joins me in the studio from the minority side on the matter. Daniel Yao Demolabo is a former Auditor General. He's a member of the Oral Preparatory Committee and joins us via Zoom. Adam Senano is the anti-corruption campaigner and is with me here in the studio. Abraham Amaliba is the Director General of the National Road Safety, and he belongs to the, as the Director of Conflict Resolutions with the NDC and belongs to the NDC legal team. He's done a lot of work for the party over the years, and he also joins me via Zoom. Thank you, gentlemen, for the time on PM Express. Daniel Demolabo, let me start with you because you are the only member of this panel who was on the oral committee. It's your work, basically, that the Attorney General was updating the country on. And recently, you were on, I believe, the KSM show, on which you said a few things about the pace of investigations. You said, quote, with the briefing that Attorney General has been giving, a lot of work is going on, but am I satisfied? No. I can't see the end of the tunnel, not to talk of the light at the end of the tunnel. It begs one question. Were they prepared before coming to office? Because when I look at the quantum of money we should recover and the snail speed at which we are moving, I wonder when we are going to get there. I think we have to change the speed at which we are moving and let people gain the confidence that things are moving and moving very fast. You heard that Attorney General today. Satisfied now?
First, let me say that what you quoted are excerpts of my interview. So it is not really correct. I stated something different before talking about the pace. I said the legal framework for prosecuting corruption and corruption-related cases, including oral, does not allow a fast tracking of it. So it will go slowly. And if we don't make some basic changes like reversed burden, putting time limit on prosecution of corruption cases, and stop in trial appeals so that the cases can be brought to finality on time, I can't see the tunnel, not to talk about the light at the end of the tunnel. So it is true that you heard me, but you didn't hear me correctly, because what KSM did was to pin a lot of excerpts together. But yes, the update given today by the Attorney General is good. And I said the same thing on the KSM show. I said there's a lot of work going on, but my dissatisfaction is not coming from the work which is going on, but my dissatisfaction has to do with the legal system itself. The laws that govern this process, the institutional arrangement. I was Auditor General. I remember in my cases, at times you go to court, less than 15 minutes, the judge defers or postpones the case for the next 3 months. So this will go on, and you are a witness to several of these corruption-related cases that travel several years. That is what I'm complaining about. But what Attorney General and the team are doing is commendable.
Specifically today, what you heard from the AG, which part of that would you say pleased you the most? There were, as far as the oral cases are concerned, he updated us today. Was the buffer stock part of it? I believe so. It was. He updated us. He updated us today on that. He has charges now. He's going to file them on Friday.
Yes, he said that, and he talked about the national service also. So I think all the updates that he gave today were quite good. It is not a process. Let me state my view here. I have no problem with the speed at which Attorney General is moving and even filing the case at court. My fear is when the cases reach the court, what happens from there? That is where the lawyers do what they know how to do best. They pick one point, they go on appeal, come back. When they start hearing the case again, they start another appeal. So to delay the case, like you have seen in several cases in the past. So as for the work being done is okay. I am only worried about the legal framework, which allows these cases to go on for a very long time. And if you listen to the interview I granted, I quoted an example in China where the former minister of Agric was tried within 3 months. I think 3 or 4 months. The trial was completed. So that is the point I'm making. I'm not saying we should try our cases in 3 months, But if 1 year is okay, yes, let's go for it so that we can limit these trials so that it doesn't continue forever. Thank you.
Dana, please stay with me. I'll come back to you on some of the other specifics he talked about today. But let me come to Bafewa. Bafewa, that's the Dana Domelevo's view on it. He was a member of the committee. His work was basically one that the Attorney General updated us on. He says what he said is he's happy. It's commendable. You don't disagree, do you?
Thank you very much. Let me comment by stating that the need for accountability once you hold public office, for me, is absolute. It's non-negotiable. And so we should demand from public office holders accountability. In fact, once that culture is established, everybody who occupies public office will be mindful of his actions and inactions. I think that the situation we have experienced over the years in this country, where people go to public office and come out very wealthy, is inappropriate. And if care is not taken, there will be one day, like it happened many years ago in 1981, and it's happening across the globe now, there might be some insurgency, which we would not find acceptable. And so it is good. However, accountability must be within the confines of the law. Ghana is the creation of law, the constitution of the country. The Attorney General's position is the creation of Article 88. In fact, it is the only ministerial or cabinet position which is specifically mentioned in the Constitution. And so the Attorney General's role, very respectfully, just like other provisions of the Constitution, must be respected. And it is in the same vein that I think the Attorney General would also have to respect other provisions of the Constitution. That is, for instance, the presumption of innocence until proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. The Attorney General will have to respect that. And we all have to appreciate that point, that, look, everyone who is accused of an offense until convicted, tried and convicted by a court of competent jurisdiction is innocent. Mr. Domelevo mentioned the case of China. In 2001, the trial of Victor Salome was less than 2 years. And so I don't know the facts of the case Mr. Domelevo is mentioning or is seized with. But it is not only in China that public office holders have been tried in record time. In Ghana, the Republic versus Victor Salome, it was done within record time. And so it is possible even in our jurisdiction. We, however, need to be mindful of the facts of each case. And so I'm not aware of the facts in China, but we need to appreciate or acknowledge that in Ghana it has also happened before. Each case turns on its individual facts, and we need to acknowledge that.
Okay, specifically though, I want your view on, give me your verdict on what you heard today. Are you satisfied with the Attorney General's approach?
Again, the Attorney General's approach is problematic.
Why?
Firstly, he is not just the Attorney General, he's also the Minister of Justice. Indeed, there's prosecutorial responsibility, which means that you need to approach prosecution bearing in mind the presumption that the accused person may be innocent. In fact, the Attorney General himself was the lawyer for Tagore, right? Tagore had been...
The F.V. Benjamin case.
The F.V. Benjamin case. He became the lawyer for Tagore when he went on appeal. Tagore had been crucified in the...
He was convicted, was he not?
Firstly, he was crucified. The public was made to believe that he was a drug baron. He had engaged in drug trafficking and so on and so forth. He was prosecuted at the High Court. He was convicted and sentenced. When he went to the Court of Appeal, he was acquitted and discharged. What that means is that we have to be careful what we say about people from professional perspective, Because if care is not taken, we'll end up convicting innocent people in the public domain, which is why I was very worried today hearing some of the things the Attorney General said. I'll give you an example. To say, for instance, in putting out the facts in respect of the case of
the buffer stock?
The buffer stock, I heard him say, even on the account of this, I can succeed on a charge of abusing public office for profit. And so he's putting pressure on himself. He's tried the case in the public domain.
He's seen the evidence. He's updating us. He's expressing his confidence. Lawyers do that all the time. Of course, if you're going to prosecute the case, you must believe in what you're taking to court.
Don't forget, there are always two sides to a case. What the investigator heard, the Attorney General may not have sat through the investigations. Third parties did the investigations. They gathered the evidence. The Attorney General wasn't there. He's been given the evidence by the third parties. The third parties have put certain judgment to the evidence. Based on that, you think that, yes, you have a case. You go to court, and then there will be the scrutiny of cross-examination. At that point, you realize that what you thought was the position or your judgment in terms of the rightfulness of your judgment may not have been so. And so at that point, you will not succeed. That is when he will come out and accuse the court. Don't forget, the Attorney General has the penchant of always accusing our courts, even when he was in opposition. And I now appreciate why he was doing that.
Why?
Because he was always looking at the case from his perspective.
But that's just what he must do.
Every good lawyer goes to court not looking at a case from his perspective. You look at the case from your perspective, the perspective of the lawyer on the other side, and what the judge possibly may also think about it.
But this was an update to the country.
That is why you don't put out such an update.
You're saying that he should not have given us today's update?
No, give an update, but manage the public expectation, particularly because an evidence does not, stand the test or does not become, in terms of evaluation of evidence, the court will evaluate it after it has been tested, right? And at this point, it hasn't been tested.
Give me a second. Abraham Alibat, what's your view on this? Do you have Abraham on the line? Please unmute for me.
If you
just a second. I'll come back.
Because if you go to
I'll come back to you.
Yeah, let me finish. Let me conclude on this.
I'll come back to you. Trust me, I'll come back to you. I want him to weigh in on this. I'll come back to you.
Give me just 1 minute.
I'll return to you.
You will come to it.
I'll return to you. I want him to weigh in on this, and then I'll come back to you, and then I get other views on.
1 minute.
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Let me get him to weigh in briefly. I'll come back to you. Don't worry about it. I'll come back to you. Yes, weigh in on this for me.
Yeah, Evans, don't forget that in the last elections, part of what the NDC presented to the Ghanaian people was to fight corruption. And don't also forget that under the previous administration, there were allegations and scandals almost every other week. And so if you come to power, you need to account to the people. And you are also aware, and you were referencing Domelevo on this matter, you are also aware that there's so much dissatisfaction regarding the speed at which prosecutions are ongoing. So what the Attorney General sought to do, or has been doing, is just to update the people and carry them along and let the people of this country know that oral is still on the front burner.
By the way, are you one of those dissatisfied with the pace?
Say it again.
Are you one of those dissatisfied with the pace?
Well, I've never spoken. I know Dominic Ayene, who is my senior in chambers, as a very meticulous person, and I know that he won't rush to go to court unless he's done all the things that he's doing now by ticking the boxes. But I also knew that when he starts the prosecution, it was not going to be something that we will say that is slow. But like I'm saying, at this point, Dominic Ayine, as an Attorney General, believes in his case. And I disagree that if you believe in your case, you should begin to disbelieve in your case because the other lawyer may have a superior argument. You believe in your case, that's why you are going to court. And so what we are seeing is not pronouncing people guilty, but what we are seeing is the Attorney General updating the Ghanaian people. And when you read his statement, the first paragraph, the opening statement was that it was to the sovereign people of this country, because it was one of the grounds upon which these elections were fought. So I disagree with him entirely, and thinking that what he is doing is defaming people. What he's doing has nothing to show that he's defaming people, but what he's doing is accounting to the people, and I don't think that that should be a problem to anybody. It's only criminals.
What Bafo what makes says is you can update us on where you are with investigations. That's different from now saying that on a particular allegation, you are confident of securing the conviction of a man who is innocent until proving otherwise by a court of competent jurisdiction.
When we go to court as lawyers and we stand before the judge and we are making our submissions, it is based on our conviction that we will win the case. Ask Buffalo whether that's a lie. And so,
except that the Attorney General is no ordinary lawyer, he's also the Minister of Justice.
And so, as an Attorney General, Minister of Justice, has he deprived the accused person or the suspects their rights to defend themselves? No. What he has done has not taken away the rights of suspects or accused persons to defend themselves.
Okay, Bafo.
Okay. So when you go to court as a lawyer, be it in a criminal matter or a civil matter, even your evidence, what that you consider to be the basis of your case, there's the possibility that it might not be admissible. I'll give you an example. In the Republic versus the Bafuboni matter, the NCA matter, a witness, a statement, right, of one of the accused persons, which was the key foundation of the prosecution's case, right, was deemed inadmissible. The court rejected it. Okay, if it had been today, I'm sure on the basis of that statement, the Attorney General would have held a press conference and said, the accused person has given us a statement where he has confessed to the commission of the offense, right? And on the basis of that statement alone, we are likely to secure a conviction. And so these are some of the reasons why, from where I sit as a trial lawyer, I am of the view that the Attorney General, in his update, needs to manage the facts. This is a position I've maintained not just in respect of the Attorney General, but also the OSP. Because over the years, such, updates in the manner which they have done, very detailed manner, right, have resulted in a situation where the public expectation has been heightened. And when there is no, the expectations are not met, the public tend to think that you are not working. But you forget that in the courtroom, it's not the AG's court. In the courtroom, you have another lawyer coming.
Let me bring Adam. Adam, is the AG putting unnecessary pressure on himself, considering that the oral was a partisan campaign promise already, and today he spent quite a bit of time talking about pressure. And then he goes through the list of his bosses, the president, the chief of staff, Callistus, trying to tell us that none of them is giving me pressure here. But he's obviously feeling the pressure because he references it. I mean, Amaliba has also talked about it. And then he gives us this update. And then he says, if you do it the way he's done it, you create more expectation, and then that brings unnecessary pressure, that then you're tempted to railroad people, although you are Minister of Justice too. Where do you sit on that?
Well, first of all, I mean, if you take, for example, Act 959, those of us who were involved in crafting it for the OSP, where we said every 6 months come and report to the public, it was because we had a certain context where the level of disillusionment and nothing is happening and nothing's going to happen. So don't even bother.
In fact, investigations we tend to now know has become a cover for not doing anything.
Exactly.
They just said we are investigating and then nothing happens.
So we had all these agencies, which we still do, with persons engaged who are supposed to be investigating, but you never get any reports that any case has actually gotten to prosecution, someone has been sanctioned. And so we told ourselves, no, let's change the narrative. Because you have this in other jurisdictions, even the US, where there are updates. Just before going to court, sometimes starting the case, you have the FBI and whatnot call it, they say, this is what is going to happen. So the intention, even when we gave the 6 months to the OSP, wasn't such that it would become like just a de facto default position. It was to suggest that carry the citizens along so that the level of disillusionment and suspicion that nothing will ever change, that narrative changes. And in that context, I am absolutely excited that the AG continues to update and carry us along. I think what needs to happen is the education of the populace that the facts being provided and the facts adduced does not in themselves constitute a judgment. And so whilst when we talk about management, in my view, it's not so much the AG. Yes, the AG must manage what is put out there, must also be cautious in terms of the language so that you don't start talking about criminals when maybe they are not criminals, etc. Those kind of things need to be managed. But we need to do a lot more education of our populace that these facts by themselves do not constitute a judgment saying that the person is guilty. They are only to the extent of what the facts are at this stage. And we need to wait to see what the courts will rule on the matter. So I am happy with the AG doing what they are doing. I think it's important to carry us on. It is because of where we've gotten to. If you look at our status on the CPI, it's the lowest ever. It couldn't be worse. We need to be doing some very radical things to turn things around, as it were, to give citizens some confidence that, you know, something can change. And then you get them also to join you, as it were, to be reporting corruption and acting against corruption. I don't think that it's a bad thing. I agree that we need to manage things. I think it's not just the AG that probably needs to be speaking to this. Some other education on ensuring that people understand that this is not a ruling. It's not a judgment. So let's be cautious in drawing conclusions.
Let's look at some of the specifics now. The cases that he updated us on, which of them struck you as this really is what you've been campaigning about? The Auditor General has been, because in fact, he actually, in one of the cases, relies on the Auditor General to do a forensic audit. This he told us today about the NSA.
Yes.
That the Auditor General has done a forensic audit for him, which is now going to be the basis of his prosecution. What I felt was an interesting way to deploy the Auditor General beyond just his annual reports that he puts out. And then we had the buffer stock one, which he had called the Rumble in the Jungle. Of course, when you hear the details, the jaw-dropping, right? Give me your quick reaction to the specifics.
Well, not surprising.
Not surprising?
Shocked that people in leadership will get themselves embroiled in this. But not surprising because, I mean, look, somebody got, was it 27 houses?
Yes.
Aha!
In this case, so there was a 17-bedroom boutique hotel. I mean, by the way, and I need to repeat it, these are allegations, not proving.
Yes, I agree.
But we are just repeating what we heard from the Attorney General.
Yes.
And our reaction to it. 17-bedroom hotel.
You can get 27 houses in 4 years. I mean, it's clear that, don't forget that these people come out of us.
He bought a watch.
Yes,
worth 1.5 million cedis. The wife, who earns 5,000 cedis a month from him, because she's a housewife, owned 61 luxury bags.
Yes. They come out from us, so don't forget. They come out from us.
Allegedly. Let me just add that because it's important. Somebody's reputation. Allegedly. Because he's denied it, by the way. He's denied all the allegations.
I think it's important, Evans, to know that there's a certain pattern emerging. That the thinking is that you get into political office to get certain things in place. And there's a certain assumption that you will not be caught. Or even if you are caught, you will find a way around it. And that is why the kind of thing that's happening now is important, to reverse that kind of mentality. Otherwise, people would not have the confidence, the audacity to do the kind of things we are talking about, as long as the facts are right. So the two cases I found very interesting. I found the forensic audit important because one of the things on my mind is about when you're going to war, it's about strategy. Under oral, there are so many cases, 230. I'm not quite sure that the AG by itself can speedily handle this. So the auditor, the Attorney General is going to have to deploy strategy. And I think having...
You have to prioritize. You can't do everything.
Yes. And then bring other groups on board. So if you need to go to lawyers in the private sector, if you need to get the audit service to dig deep and get more facts, that will make the evidence stronger and make your team easier, make it easier for your team to go to court. I think they need to think through a lot of other things. I'm delighted that the president said, let's get specialized courts. Earlier in the year, I was in Kenya. They have as many as 12 specialized anti-corruption courts. They have a target of 6 months. The courts sit daily.
Yeah.
They don't say come next month or come in 3 months.
Yeah.
Daily on the same issue. The target is 6 months, and they are meeting that target. They've made a lot of recoveries. There's the percentage that comes back to the institution. So there's a lot of progress there. Zambia has something similar. So there are jurisdictions in Africa we can learn from. And I'm thinking that that thing of getting the Auditor General to do additional work that then reduces the workload on their own staff may be one of the strategies they may want to look at much more. In terms of the ramble in the jungle, I think that is just a curious story. I mean, I would love to, at the end of the day, find out what lessons do we learn from things like this. Because
you know, one of the things that struck me, and I'll put that to Dano Demondable too. It sounds unbelievable that somebody thought I could transfer 78 million and then siphon 50 million plus of that into my personal account, and nobody will spot it. Yeah. I mean, you know, and I was so this can't be real. I mean, there's something there that we are missing. It just sounds too unbelievable. And sometimes if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That maybe it's not what the Attorney General is telling us.
Well, I've always worried whether people occupying these offices get a proper orientation. I think sometimes persons, they are not very seized with management practices, processes, and may think that the audit process is random. They may audit, they may not audit, or by the time they audit, because, you know, our audit process is said that by the time it's actually even getting to park, it may be 2-3 years after. And then if they ask you to go to court, it may take another, year or two. So you do the calculation and say, oh, by that time I have invested the money. I may probably have made 100% of it. So if I pay you back, I still have. I'm just saying, you don't know how criminal minds are thinking.
Yeah.
So they may be thinking that there's a way around it. I'll still be able to make some profit around it. Let's see whether it sounds unbelievable, but perhaps there's a simplicity of it. In their minds, I can get away with it.
I see. And let me bring in Abraham. Abraham, today, the Attorney General spent a lot of time trying to deal with and dismiss the accusation that he's cutting deals. And he was very emphatic that he's not cutting any deal. And that people indeed, he says, offers have been made to him. And then this is in relation to plea deals that he's turned down. In cases like Wuntumi, he said they approached him, offered to do a deal, he says go to court. But here's the thing, because you are a party man, this problem that he spent a lot of time responding to here and created the credibility trust deficit was first thrown out by your General Secretary, who says some are becoming conduit through whom pressure is being brought to bear on people who are supposed to do what is right and may not mention names, but at the time will come when we may. And he says, they, quote, some amongst us are busy trying to cut deals with people who are supposed to be prosecuted. Now, when he said that, anti-corruption campaigners raise red flags. I remember speaking to you on this. If the General Secretary is saying this, it must be true. And I hear the Attorney General says that is not true. In fact, the President was asked when we met him, the press, and he says, well, he's not aware. But you appreciate the problem that this had created and has raised further questions about what really is happening and how transparent and committed the government is to the oral agenda that Domelevo and Co. really work tirelessly on.
Well, it is important that he spent time to deal with that matter because that also brought some disaffection for him. Particularly, he was in that room when the General Secretary made that statement. So it was important for him to spend some time to deal with it. And I'm excited that he was able to do that. But the General Secretary's comment at the Kumasi meeting of the NDC lawyers was not to say that there were NDC lawyers cutting deals. What I'm aware is that as a lawyer, anybody can come for your services and you may choose to represent the person or not. So suppose we find an NDC lawyer in one of these cases and he's doing his job as a lawyer, you may think that, yes, he's there to cut deals, but he's there working as a lawyer, simpliciter. And every lawyer will do that to ensure that his client gets his freedom. However, if you are a member of this government and you are a lawyer and you know that the government has waged war against former appointees, you may have to think twice before taking up those cases because it may be construed like the way the General Secretary misconstrued the conduct of those lawyers to mean that you are cutting deals. So I think on our platform, that argument came up. And I think overwhelmingly, we were of the view that can lawyers belonging to the NDC avoid taking up those cases? Okay. You would have been doing your work as a lawyer, but the implication will be what we are hearing from the General Secretary. So I think it was good for him to spend time to make those comments for people to know that he wasn't involved in it at all.
So Abraham, are you saying that if any of these accused individuals calls you and says, I want to hire you, you will turn it down?
That's what I'm saying. I will have to weigh the repercussions as a politician and as a lawyer. You may say that is where you get your daily bread. So why would you turn it down? But again, you have to also think about the larger interest of the party. And so it's a dicey thing. It's a chicken and egg situation. But I'm trying to just let you understand how the General Secretary came to that conclusion. Because lawyers will do their work, not referencing themselves as NDC lawyers. But again, the General Secretary will see this person as an NDC lawyer. So why are you involved in this case? So I'm just trying to let you understand how this might have come about.
Fascinating stuff. Daniel Domelevo, you worked on the oral document. When you hear these allegations that deals are being cut, when the work that you've done was supposed to really save this country billions, the Attorney General responded to it today. Were you satisfied?
Yeah, he actually responded satisfactorily. When I heard that deals were being cut, I was very worried because when even the work started, there were speculations that even the team that was gathering the information on looting and etc. were also going to be open up to such situations. Fortunately, it didn't come through. I think we did our work without any such incidences. So when we heard it from the General Secretary, it was a bit disturbing, except that if you look even on your screen, you are still talking about oral report lacked evidence. Lack evidence, I think it is not the way the Attorney General should have put it, because the oral team did not investigate before we will bring evidence. All we did was to collect information that they gave us. We didn't investigate. So if he says it lacked evidence, it's as if our investigation or our audit did not substantiate the issues. But our job was not to do any investigation. So we just collected data as given to us and we presented it.
I mean, to be fair to the Attorney General, let me quote what he said, because this is a PowerPoint. You know, sometimes it may just give you a bullet, but let me quote him just to be fair to him. He says the investigations were necessary because the oral committee reports did not contain the evidence required to prove the guilt of the suspects in court beyond reasonable doubt. It is always important to remember that the oral committee was tasked by His Excellency the President to receive complaints of looting of state resources.
Fantastic. So that clarifies it.
Yeah.
So it must be clear to the members that your summary is problematic.
No, bro, it's PowerPoint. When I was presenting it, I'll give you the context.
It's problematic because it may look like, oh, we did work, but we didn't produce any evidence, and we said so many millions or billions have been stolen. But I think that is fine. So it is good that Attorney General spent some time. I listened to him clearly. He spent some time to disperse that view that anybody or any member or legal team of the NDC, for that matter, was trying to bribe their way through, or people wanted to bribe their way through them. I think that is very, very, very necessary.
And by the way, on the subject of the oral, and that's the one you have on your screen there, this week, the Deputy Attorney General was speaking on the subject of what you said is recoverable, the 21 billion plus. He says that is on the high side.
I completely agree. And I remember, I think I had an interview with you, and I said that those figures are just summation of the complaints which came. And I even said that after an audit or investigation, those figures may balloon further or may shrink. It is possible. And again, the actual game is in the courtroom. When you get to the courtroom, the amount may reduce significantly. And I even cautioned, I remember saying that I know even if we should win the 21 or 22, close to $22 billion, if we should win all that, collecting it is another game altogether. I think there are two lawyers that they will bear me out. That even the fact that you have won the case in the court does not necessarily mean you collect the money. And I remember citing Woyome's case to say that I remember Supreme Court say pay, but it took some time. I don't know up to now whether it has fully been paid. So winning the case is one thing, but recovering it is a different ball game. So I completely agree with the Deputy Attorney General that yes, as for us, we just collected data and summed it up. We didn't do any investigation. A preliminary investigation even may show that some of the complaints were just noise. There's nothing in it. But we collected the data as it is, so including the garbage. So if he has taken time to look at it and maybe based upon some preliminary investigation and think it's on the high side, I do not disagree with him.
Did you just use the word including garbage?
Yes, because at times people, in fact, nobody came to us that we turn away and say, yes, we will not take your information. So we collected all the information. Remember, we're not investigating. So when you come, we are not going to say that Mr. Mensah substantiate what you are saying. So you just come and say that I know Mr. Maliba is involved in this, that. The amount is this. We see the document you have and we capture it. Some even came in the form of emails. Some even came in the form of emails. What about if the person is just making it up? Being an experienced auditor, I know that you can even submit documents. And later on, when we test the documents may not have any substance or they may not be authentic. So there will be a lot of garbage in it. There's no two ways about that.
Buffalo, we're waiting on this one.
From what I've heard, to a very large extent, or let me put it in the form of a question, then what was the utility of the oral? When you look at the persons forming the committee, you have Mr. Domlevo, a very highly experienced auditor, the former Auditor General. You had lawyer Martin Pebu. You had Commissioner retired Kofi Boakye, an experienced security person. You had all these people on there with the current Yoko boss to there. And all they did was to receive documents, couldn't even probe the usefulness or otherwise of the documents. And so they handed over the report to the president, including all garbage. Then what was the utility of it? It does appear that they are part of the reason why there's a lot of pressure on the Attorney General. And the Attorney General himself is also advancing it with the nature of information he's putting in the public domain. I think that, it's really, really unfortunate from what I'm hearing this evening. Very unfortunate. And that is why, people were at some point of the view that some deals were being cut. In fact, what was given to the Attorney General was unrefined document that Mr. Domlevo very respectfully failed to bring his experience, his expertise to bear on what he received. Mr. Martin Pebu failed to bring his experience to bear on what he received. He knows what is admissible, what is inadmissible, what is the weight of an evidence. Very respectfully, he's about 18 years at the bar. He qualifies to be a judge of even the Court of Appeal, should be in a position to evaluate documents. And so if he couldn't, then very respectfully, the utility of the oral is really problematic, has been it was of no use to the Attorney General. I made that point from day one on your platform. Today, very respectfully, with the grace of God, I think that our position has been vindicated by the confession of Mr. Domlevo. Mr. Kofi Boakye, senior, very experienced policeman, couldn't even evaluate, also of legal background. These are things that, for a very experienced trial lawyer like Pebu, for an auditor, my brother, it was a complete waste of time. And today, that position has been vindicated by Mr. Domlevo. If I may proceed, if I may add on.
I would like to get an outcome.
If I may add on.
If you are moving away from here, I want
I'm there.
Briefly.
I'm there.
Briefly, yes.
You see, when they finished, it became necessary for it to for the NIB to probe it or go into it. And it was part of the reason why the NIB found itself in a very difficult position. And that is why the Attorney General has been doing all that it has been doing. I think that they have failed the president, unless they were aware that it was of propaganda value. And that propaganda is what the AG very respectfully seems to be dragged into. I think
Can I respond?
all we needed to do...
Just a second, yes, you may.
All we needed to do was to allow the state agencies to do their work. If you have any information, send it to Yoko, send it to the police CID, send it to BNI, send it to these state agencies.
Remember that it was set up before he took office.
So,
gather the evidence.
So what then is the point? Because now you gather the evidence, you've given them to Yoko, you've given them to NIB to proceed. In fact, today the Attorney General made reference to a certain forensic audit.
Yes.
It may well be that that audit may have very little legal value in terms of criminal prosecution.
Okay, just a second. Let me get Domlevo to respond to that. You accept the criticism, Daniel? Hello, Mr. Domlevo, can you hear me?
Can I speak?
Daniel Domlevo, can you hear me? Okay, I would get him because I'm pretty sure he said he wanted to respond. And please respond to me for me.
No, I'm not quite that the position that this validates your thinking and what you've been saying is right. I'll tell you why. Right from the first time I heard about oral, I said, brilliant. Why? If you look at the Afrobarometer report for 2022-2023, about 30% of Ghanaians said they would not report issues of corruption for two reasons. The first reason was that they anticipated a backlash because their identities were likely to be exposed, and the persons whom they were reporting would get to know about it and somehow, get at them, hit them. Second reason was that they did not expect that even if they reported, anything will change. Now, the reason why, for me, oral, just by collecting the data was fantastic, was the individuals that had been selected were known individuals who have handled corruption cases in the past, and the identities of those who gave them information was never exposed. And so that was a confidence-building factor that the persons mentioned there, whether it was Samia Blakwa and so on and so forth, are persons who in the past have been at the forefront of dealing with issues of corruption. Their sources of information had never been exposed. And so that immediately made it possible for people to have a lot of confidence in who was on the oral committee and what would happen. The second aspect of it was that these same persons have handled information on corruption, proceeded where necessary to engage at whichever level, and gotten results. So the two key reasons why Ghanaians had said they would not even bother to report were addressed by the composition of the committee, which meant that many more citizens will have the confidence to provide information. And so I disagree with him entirely when he says there was no utility. There's plenty of utility because the data tells us that there were concerns citizens had, for which reason they would not even provide that information, and this committee was able to deal with that. It was a bridge for Ghanaians to have confidence to speak to these issues. And so I'm not quite sure he understands the dynamics we're dealing with here. I think oral was a fantastic idea. It should continue to be one of the things that we use.
I'm going to take a break. When I return, hopefully we can get Dr. Domolovo back, and then he can weigh in on that. And then he'll give me his thoughts on the forensic audit that the Auditor General had done in the NSA investigations of what evidential value could that be in court. Stay with me. Thanks for staying with us here on PM Express. We're discussing today's update from the Attorney General on his oral investigations and prosecutions. And my guests have been weighing in on what we heard today. You can find the details of what he said on our live stream, because a lot of it is on social media and on our handles. And just before we went for the break, there was a central point that the Attorney General talked about when it came to the oral work that was handed to him, and that because he lacked the evidence, he's asked the state security agencies to look into it because they just gathered the people's complaints, and that was given to him. He needed to now subject that to the scrutiny before he can then decide which one to take to court. Daniel Demolovu was responding to the points made by Bafewa that admission that the information that was handed to the Attorney General and the government included garbage, then, if you like, means that that process was a waste of time. Mr. Demolovu, what your response to that?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity, and sorry that technology keep failing us. I think I heard Bafo's argument, and I think it is completely misplaced. It is completely misplaced because the oral team was not a commission of inquiry or a committee of inquiry. It was not an investigating team, neither an audit team. The terms of reference was very clear. The president said before election, actually, they promised oral. And when they won the election, information was flowing all the way, and the president could not handle that information by himself or just say, put this one here or there. Secondly, many people were not happy to go to the police or to Yoko or to OSP to go and give those information, because you go there, you are going to be subjected to write a statement and do whatnot, etc. They were not interested. So the president set up this team to say, look, you gather the information, you meet, and people can come to you and listen. You listen to them, you write the complaint, or they write and bring it to you. Whatever evidence they have, we put it together. So if you remember, Immediately we gave our report to the president. He gave it to the Attorney General. And it was made clear by our leader, Okujeto Ablakwa, that this is what we received. We never referred to it as an investigating team. So for him to position that we failed to investigate is as if he constituted it into an investigating team. We're not doing investigation. The fact that you are an auditor, the fact that somebody is a lawyer, the fact that somebody is an ex-policeman, if he is assigned to receive information or data, that does not mean that he just take it on and say, I'm going to conduct an audit. So that was not part of our mandate. So I think his argument is completely misplaced, and our job was delivered according to the terms of reference.
Okay, Abraham Aliba, did your government, when you were campaigning last year, did you overpromise and now struggling to deliver on those promises when it came to oral?
But Evans, where is the struggling coming from? We are just 9 months old, and we are putting people before court. We have put 3 people before court now. There are 3 cases. When you were talking, you said 2. There are actually 3 cases. There's a Sky Train one, there's a National Service one, and there's the National Service one. Buffer stock one is there.
Buffer stock is going to court on Friday, from what the Attorney General
It's going to court.
Friday, yes. But the charges have is complete, yes.
Exactly. So for me, government is on track. The Attorney General is on track.
But were you over ambitious though with oral? I mean, looking at the evidence before you today, looking back at the campaign, did you overpromise?
We couldn't have been over ambitious when what we were facing as a country was overwhelming too. Don't forget that people didn't even know that it was possible to rule a country for 9 months without a scandal. People thought that scandals are a byproduct of governing a country. And so we got to a point where every other day there was something that Ghanaians were complaining about. So at this point, would you be talking about how we must go and deal with the issues, or you'll be talking about over promising? Because what we are even saying that we are sending to court is not even half of what Ghanaians complain about. So I don't think so. I don't think that we have overpromised at all. But the people of this country wanted this to happen. It is happening. And for me, it's an indication of a government that would hold people accountable.
Okay. And let's talk about, we have just about 8 minutes to wrap up. Let's talk about another aspect we haven't touched on, which is the Kenneth Riata matter. Part of that was in oral too. Today he told us about the National Cathedral. He's asked for a forensic audit now into the National Cathedral, and Kenneth Riata is front and center there as well. But the controversy leading to today's press conference was about the attempt to extradite Kenneth Riata from the US to Ghana, which the OSP is leading. He was asked that question. The letters that have leaked indicating that the request was made. He also made a request for the docket. He repeated the point that without a docket, he can't proceed with the extradition arrangement. What do you make of that? We've heard from his deputy, the Attorney General himself now has spoken about it, that he's waiting for that docket. And the question of delay also again pops up. Like, Kenneth Riata is a wanted man. He's been wanted for a long time. We know where he is, and yet we haven't even begun the process to extradite him. At least we haven't sent anything to the US authorities. He says, I want the docket. Isn't that a problem? That we should have finished this, the docket should be ready, the AG should have it, and the US government should be looking at it now.
I think that the AGs and the OSP should have managed that information much better. And it's because of the facts, the chronology of the facts. Originally, they expected Mr. Kenneth Riata on the 2nd of June. To all extents and purposes, until a few days before, when he said he was no longer able to come because of surgery, which had now been rescheduled, which is something probably that should have come up much earlier, let's say May or so, because initially he had said it would be done in April. What would have happened if Kenneth Riata arrived on the 2nd? the OSP, because of the 4 cases or more that have come up subsequently, would have then had to do the interrogation. This probably by itself would have taken a couple of other additional weeks. So the docket was definitely not ready in June. They were anticipating going through a process of asking questions, getting more information, subjecting it to the witnesses to complete that docket.
But here's the thing, though. The OSP should have known this when he wrote the letter requesting for the extradition process to begin, triggered by the AG. He should have known that there's no way the AG could have done that without a docket.
No, hold on. So here's the issue. And so my point is not actually complete yet.
Yeah.
Now, when they wrote, then on the 10th of June, they then did the raid of SNL and all those other things, and suddenly discovered that, there's much more information that we can use to enhance. We have a very good docket, but there's much more data we are getting that could move us from very good to excellent. We think that we want to polish this, being maybe passionate about excellence, want to be sure we have watertight. So in their response that they provided on the 20th of June, having nominated the 2 members, they then went on to say, with regard to the docket, we have some finishing touches we want to do before we submit it, not necessarily with those words. And I think that given the context that they said that it was because of the raid on the 10th, so on the 2nd of June, when they sent that request, they did not realize that their 10th raid was going to create so much more information. Indeed, by the time they provided that docket, which is definitely going to happen before the end of the month, you find that there are new charges, there's new information, there's a lot of things that have come up as a result of that raid. So I think that all of this should have been managed much better. I think it's much ado about nothing. The docket will definitely get to the AGs. The 2 of them will have to work on it. Ultimately, I think that these are things that we need to learn when we are looking at the collaborative work that must be done between our anti-corruption agencies in the country. Need to be a little more patient. In the same way that AGs is saying that Ghanaians should give them more time to investigate the oral. This sounds like a biblical example. You are demanding your pound of flesh now. More, you're telling others to have time. Please, AG, as you're asking us to have time, patience with you. Have time with the OSP. Just within a week, not more than a week and a half or so, all of this will be water under the bridge.
So, quickly, 1, you've been streaming on your TV the oral committee visiting properties with cameras following them.
Yes.
That doesn't look like a committee that was just receiving information. Clearly, there it is. So if you say the oral committee was merely receiving information without investigation or evaluating it, that cannot be correct. Indeed, it would very respectfully make absurd the persons that were put together. I don't think that is what the president expected from them. Then they may have misunderstood the president. And so the oral committee in that regard has failed the president, has failed the attorney general, and has validated the position that they were not useful after all. The evidence is clear. Look at the oral committee, moving from properties to properties. What were they doing? It doesn't look like a committee that was merely receiving information, a committee that was inspecting.
But they were not investigating either.
But what is investigation? Investigation is simply verifying information. That is simply investigation. When you receive information, you verify it to determine whether or not it is of utility value.
But if they receive petitions of 230, they couldn't have verified all of that.
That is, of course, you have to. Why? You are going to pour everything on the president.
That wasn't their mandate. That was the money they were given.
Why were they visiting properties?
The code that was on the face of it, the code.
To do what? To do what? You are visiting properties. Your mandate was just to receive information, but now you are visiting properties. To do what? My brother, let me move on very respectfully to, I think my point is, but let me move on to the...
Ken.
I
just have 2 minutes, so...
The first point is that when you are involved in any matter, be it the prosecutor or the defense counsel, you build a docket as you go on. And your docket is as it is, anytime it is demanded. In fact, in civil practice, you have clients demanding photocopies of their dockets. And so in criminal practice, the current status of your docket is as it is. And when anybody demands a copy of it, I don't think you should hesitate. Now, the law of the OSP requires, the Establishing Act, requires that the OSP cooperates with state agencies. I am of the view that it shouldn't have been difficult for the OSP to move to the Attorney General's office, to sit down with the Attorney General and say, this is the status of my docket. There are some information I've received.
So you're describing the work as, that's where the issue is the docket issue. This amount of time is being compiled.
For 2 months. You see?
But he's told you about the development that he didn't anticipate at the time they were writing a letter for.
He doesn't work at the OSP's office.
But I'm sure of my source of information.
The OSP issued a statement. They issued a statement in which they said that they talked about the SML raid.
The Attorney General obviously came out as a frustrated person, true or false?
Today?
No, yesterday, the Deputy Attorney General.
No, it wasn't yesterday.
I wouldn't say that.
I'm not sure frustrated.
The Deputy Attorney General.
He was simply stating what they needed. What they needed to trigger this extradition process.
If he was not frustrated, he wouldn't have spoken about it.
He was asked the question.
He was asked the question. Yes. And what was his answer?
In fact, even today, the Attorney General himself, in his actual written statement, didn't touch on it. Then he was asked that question. And then he repeated the point about...
There's a chronology. You first had elements of this government come out to complain about the frustration of the government in dealing with this. There was Kevin Taylor. Subsequently,
but he's an element of the government.
Of course, who doesn't know?
Kevin Taylor, how can you say Kevin Taylor is
I am very surprised. I'm very surprised at your position. Who doesn't know Kevin Taylor's role?
Well, I don't.
In respect of you don't.
No.
Then you are pretending to not know.
Oh, come on.
You are pretending to not know.
Oh,
obviously, you are pretending.
Well, obviously,
everybody knows Kevin Taylor's.
I think you withdraw the accusation.
I'm not. You are pretending.
Now,
how am I pretending?
No, Kevin Taylor is a major plank of the NDC government.
Okay, but I don't want to make my show.
I am saying that
you don't have time.
He is. We cannot.
No, okay, but the substantive point is what?
The substantive point is that elements of this government, including Kevin Taylor, including spokespersons of this government, we know of them, have been complaining about how the OSP has been dealing with the AG in respect of the Kenufuriata matter. The AG subsequently comes out through the Deputy Attorney General and complains about how for 2 months it has been writing to the Office of the Special Prosecutor for the docket and not receiving it. Clearly, if there had been any update subsequent to or within the 2 months period as to why the docket was not coming, I think the AG would have updated us in that regard. The AG didn't do that. Clearly, there has been a vacuum in terms of cooperation. That is why the AG stated what is stated. In my humble view, from where I sit as a trial lawyer, it shouldn't be difficult for you to make available a docket.
No, but they've explained why the docket isn't ready yet. They've explained, which is what he repeated.
No, they have explained, but that explanation should or cannot go without public scrutiny.
Yeah, but what's the scrutiny there? They've conducted the raid.
I can't analyze it.
No, you can't.
So that is the scrutiny.
But for what they conducted,
I can see you are speaking for the OSP. That is fine. That is fine.
That is fine. That is not fair. That is not fair. It's not fair because
you cannot deny my right to scrutinize what the OSP has put out.
Just a second.
That's the interruption you are doing.
No, just a second. No. If you disregard him for a second and address him because I'm disregard him. The OSP issued a statement.
Exactly.
It's a matter of public record.
And that statement
it can. But you can't say that he's speaking for them because he was articulating an OSP's public statement.
No. But why the interruption? Have you forgotten the interruption?
No, he didn't interrupt.
Have you forgotten the interruption?
No, it's okay, by the way.
Allow me to analyze it.
No, but I'm asking the question. I was asking you.
Okay.
When you say it can be scrutinized, the OSP says, I did a raid and I found a trove of additional facts and evidence that I didn't know existed. And so now I'm not sifting to put together a stronger docket that then will serve the Attorney General.
Let me ask you a question. If the Attorney General had not come out would that statement have been put out?
But we don't need to know that, right?
So
do you need to know that
that
is the...
So we didn't have to know. We didn't have to know. The Attorney General had to know.
Remember, it was a leak.
Wait, the Attorney General didn't know. That is why the Deputy Attorney General came out.
No.
Obviously,
it was asked a question based on a leak.
Based on the leak.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that if the Attorney General had the information the OSP put out, it wouldn't have spoken in the manner which it did, necessitating the OSP to respond.
Okay. Let me quickly wrap this up because I need to give final word because I really exceeded. Mr. Demolo, very quickly, a minute for me.
Yes, for the topic you are discussing, let me say that from my point of view, it's very unfortunate the way Attorney General and OSP managed the issue on the extradition of Ken Ofori-Atta. Attorney General's office is not 100 or 1,000 kilometers away from that of OSP. I think OSP could have just respectfully walk to the office of the Attorney General and say, look, this is the docket, this is where I am. Give me a day, a week, or a month for me to finish.
The microphones are so live, I want to hear him. Please wrap up for me. Apologies for the interruption.
So I think that going forward, they should collaborate better. And I think the letters, the exchange of letters were not even necessary. It's too many letters. You could have just walked there and said that, senior, look, this is where I am. And then you may say, no, even what you have is good enough for me. Because OSP does not know what the Attorney General wants, except if the OSP knows. So if it is my job to extradite the person and I need some information and you don't give it to me, how do I do it? So determining whether it's sufficient or it's not sufficient is, I think, the prerogative of the Attorney General. So they could manage this relationship in a better way. And going forward, they should stop exchanging letters and leaking it to the press and etc. And rather collaborate because they are giving room to those who steal the public funds rather to enjoy. Yeah. So I don't think that should continue.
Abraham, very quickly. Abraham, weigh in on for me very quickly.
Yes, I think that when two elephants fight, is the grass that suffers. The people of Ghana are the ones that are bearing the brunt of this confusion, because the people of Ghana want to see Ken Ofori-Atta brought to justice, and so they should be mindful of that. But I'm worried because Dominic and Kisi Ajabin have worked together in the same law firm when Kisi was working with Dominic, so they have a good relationship. I don't know where this is coming from, but I want to end by saying that Balfour should know that Kelvin Taylor is a card-bearing member of the MPP. And so you should take that away.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of the evening.